Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. John Michael Salvato, and you're watching the Peak Performance Blueprint, a daily program where we come together as a community of entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world to talk about making one single mind shift. We call this the Mind Shift Mastery Program. One single mind shift that could have a positive impact on all aspects of our lives, the 6 dimensions of wellness, not just our business, but our relationships, our spirituality, our finances, and the communities in which we live and work and serve. So today's concept, today's topic is influencers. Are you buying or are you selling? And the idea behind it was, that I've often heard from people in doing peak performance coaching. I hear from people who tell me, I'm not a salesperson, or I can't do that, or I haven't learned how to do that, or I haven't performed, I haven't done anything this month because I'm still studying, or whatever the excuse may be. And I did say excuse with intentionality, because one of the first things that Jim Rohn taught me some 37 years ago was that all excuses are equal. And he also taught me that somebody's always buying and somebody's always selling. And the key is to recognize which one you're doing at any given time. So I want you to think about this for a minute. The first time you went on a date, whether you're a male or female, somebody was buying and somebody was selling. So whoever initiated that date sold you on going on the date, or you sold them on going on the date. And then chances are pretty good one or the other of you sold the other one on where you guys were going. And if you were dating before you were 18, then that means that you probably had to sell your parents on getting out of the house, and then they had to sell you on being home by 11 o'clock, or they were going to break your legs, or at least in my family. The dad had to sell the guy on the date to make sure that you guys were home by 11 o'clock, or he was coming after him. And so on. Your first job, you sold the person who interviewed you on hiring you. And so I want everybody to understand that the idea that you're not a salesperson is bullshit. Let's just put it out there and get it said. It is absolutely pure, unmitigated bullshit, because you've been selling your whole life and you will continue to sell your whole life. Now, last night I had a conversation with somebody, and I talked in greater detail about this on the blog. And basically, this person told me that the reason they weren't able to start building their business in our primary business was because they just didn't have time to study. They didn't have speakers, so they couldn't watch the videos. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They don't have any friends. They're a loner, and they can't do this and they can't do that. Well, I explained to them, hey, the good news is that had you actually followed any of the training, including the written training that you don't need speakers for, you would know that we don't go after our friends and family. You would know that the excuse was given that, well, the one friend that I know that might like this is on the other side of the ocean, and we only communicate on Facebook. Fantastic, I said, because that's how we communicate with people, on Facebook. So see, she was trying to sell me all of her excuses for having done nothing. The simple matter of fact was it wasn't a priority. She just didn't get it done. There are people who are watching this program right now on the webpage because I sent out a message this morning that said, be here by 5 till or don't show up at all. And that wasn't really for anything other than what I'm about to say. The ones who are watching on the webpage were the ones who couldn't make being here 5 minutes early a priority. It's that simple. I want you to think about it. If you showed up at 5 minutes after right now and you started watching this, there is absolutely zero excuse. There is nothing you were doing that was so important at 5 minutes till that you couldn't have wrapped up to be here if you wanted to be here. But maybe what you were doing was a priority. And I want you to think about this. That priority might have been that your kid just fell out of his high chair, or that your hot water heater just started to leak. So sometimes our priorities are exactly where they need to be. We just need to own them. Somebody asked me to be on a webinar this week that I would have loved to have been on, but I knew that on that particular night, I was doing a training with a group of people, and my priority was those brand new people. as much as I love hanging out with that other group of people, and it was, particularly since it was somebody that I've come to love and respect, asked me to be on that webinar. So sometimes our priorities are what they are, and for good reason. We own them. So if in your business, whatever that business happens to be, you didn't get anything done last week or this week, just own it. Say, that's where my priorities were. The wonderful thing about, you hear me say at the end of every one of these sessions, stay in the moment. That's where the point of power is that right now in this moment, if you aren't satisfied with the results that you are getting in your life, whether we're talking about your business, your relationship, your finances, your spirituality, your health, if you're not satisfied in this moment, you can make a new choice. You can adjust your priorities. You can make whatever it has to be to take those extra steps of priority. So yesterday on one of our trainings outside of this program, I talked to people about a lesson that I learned on a different social media platform that made me realize that one of the reasons I've said for probably the last year and a half, I'm not a great fan of Facebook. It's not my thing. I find better leads on other social networks. And then I discovered, while I was recovering from the first heart surgery, right before the second heart surgery, I discovered the reason why. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong with Facebook or the people on Facebook. Now, don't get me wrong. There is something wrong with some people on Facebook, but that has nothing to do with business. The idea is that this other social media platform had specific goals that I was required to do to maintain my position every single day. And one of those goals for me was to like or comment on 160 people's posts. And I had never done that on Facebook. I've never done that on Google Plus, and I've never done it on Twitter. And so, but I was doing it on that platform because somebody told me this is what you have to do. And it was a friend of mine started the platform. I really wanted to support him. So I followed his rules. And I made that 160 engagements a priority. And for me, it's never enough to just simply click like on somebody's post because unless it's just something that's mediocre and you just want to say, hey, I like it, or I'm supporting the fact that you posted this. If I really want to contribute something of value to that relationship, then I need to communicate. I need to engage. And so what was really very, very important for us was that I made it a priority to take the time, whatever time it took. It happens to take about an hour to do that. So this morning, my challenge, when I, the day before any given day, I create my day on paper. I plan my day on paper, and I don't go to sleep until that's done. Last night, I said, okay, you're gonna make contact with a minimum of 35 people before 11:30. You're going to have at least 140 engagements in that period of time, and then I'm going to do the same thing again later on this afternoon. I got that done in an hour. And I've got to tell you that just within that hour, 5 new conversations started with people who were on my friends list who haven't communicated with me in at least a year. Now, I've in the past gone through my friends list and I've deleted people en masse who hang on, I got to find out who's got their microphone on and making noise. All right. And again, guys, if you can't be here at 5 minutes till the hour, don't show up afterwards. Watch it on the blog. Because it's disruptive to the group, and we're moving forward. We're getting bigger on the number of participants, and I just really don't want that. So I have in the past just deleted people because they weren't engaging, and I didn't have Facebook's not a place. It's not a Hoarders Unlimited where you just kind of hoard the number of people who are liking you. It is for some people, but it isn't for me. I'm there to engage. But now I've learned a way to get that engagement happening. And it was so obvious, and I feel like a dummy that it didn't occur to me sooner. So the idea is that again, somebody was buying, somebody was selling. My friend who started that social network said, you will succeed if you talk to 140 people a day. I've been teaching people for years to do 20 people a day, and I built a sales organization of 358,000 men and women. I'm sitting here thinking now, holy crap, if I was teaching them to talk to 100, to engage with 140 posts a day, that group would have been 1 million strong. So somebody was buying, somebody was selling. I bought what he was telling me to do. I got fantastic results, and now I'm selling it to you. I'm telling you that if you just take an hour every day and you actively engage, and you engage with meaning and purpose and intentionality, you get fantastic results. And I couldn't be happier, because now I'm going to expand that practice, so that I'm engaging with at least 30 people on Instagram, and I'm going to tell you guys. I mean, we're all about full transparency here, and I may be a 6 and 7 figure income earner for 28 of the last 37 years, but I'm an everyday kind of guy. You have to be crazy enough to wear a mohawk at 53. So I'm going to tell you, some of those social media platforms that you don't think you have time to do, I'm going to ask you bluntly, what else do you do when you're in the bathroom? That's 15 to 20 minutes a day. Bring your cell phone in there. Don't read that romance novel. Don't read the newspaper, because that's only going to get you aggravated, and that's going to bind you up. Bring your cell phone in there. Make sure you have good cell coverage, and engage on Instagram. A couple of things are going to happen. Some of those posts are going to make you giggle. That's really good for your digestive system. That'll keep things moving. Some of those things are going to make you think. That's a good use of your time, so that you can multitask while you're in there. And every one of those comments that you do is engagement, and that's going to generate better relationships. So, you could tell people that John Michael told you to start doing social media in the bathroom. And if somebody's banging on the door, you could say, wait, I haven't gotten to Twitter yet. It's blame it on me. Guys, the idea behind today's mind shift is just to recognize that someone's always buying, someone's always selling. And Jim Rohn would say, if they're not buying what you're selling, don't buy what they're selling. I had somebody tell me last night, oh, this business, I don't want to work with this business, because I had friends who were in SBC 5 years ago, and they had a big fight with their upline, and yeah, there were people that were in the company 5 years ago, my primary company, that were not getting along with one another. There were people who were in Herbalife who weren't getting along with one another. There were people in New Skin who weren't getting along with one another. In every industry, in every company, in every market niche in this world, 5 years ago, I promise you, there was somebody not getting along with somebody else. So if I were a brand new person, and that person said, oh, I'm not joining because I heard that somebody I know was fighting with somebody else back then. All I said to them was, you know what? 5 years ago, I think there were probably tens of thousands of people in tens of thousands of companies who were fighting with one another. And guess what? Tomorrow, there are going to be tens of thousands of people in tens of thousands of companies fighting with one another. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. But you know what else? In the 5 years back when I was with my first company 37 years ago, there were people who were fighting with one another. And guess what? In my first year, I earned $350,000. My second year, that was $524,000. By the end of my third year, I was a high, almost six-figure, almost seven-figure income earner. And by the end of my fifth year, I was a seven-figure income earner. And guess what? All along, people were fighting with one another. And in the fifth year, the biggest fight was that our company and another company were called before the United States subcommittee on Senate subcommittee on dieting practices, and the fight was between the president of our company and the Senate. So there was a fight going on. We lost 50% of the people that were in our organization in a single day, and the following month, I had my biggest check ever. So really 2 months later when we got paid, but the following month's volume was the biggest ever. So there are always going to be people fighting with one another. Don't buy the stories that people give you in whatever company you're doing, whatever business you're doing, even in the traditional workforce. And that applies to your relationships. That applies to your spiritual path. There isn't a single religion out there that I couldn't show you exactly why it's manipulative, corrupt, messed up, superstitious, crazy, whatever. But if it's your path and it works for you, then don't let somebody else sell you a bill of goods. If it's moving you forward and making you a more compassionate, more productive, more forgiving, and personally growing you as a person, who cares what anybody else thinks? Adopt that attitude about everything in your life. And that's why we say that you should be married to the process and divorced from the outcome. Because when I'm selling something, I'm sharing somebody, telling stories. I'm not talking about products. I'm not talking about or ingredients. I'm not talking about details like the comp plan or the management's background or or who the leadership are and what they've done in the past. I'm not talking about my income, because none of those things sell. What sells is solutions. What sells are problems. So the second half of today's training, and tomorrow we're going to really unpack this a little bit more, is stop trying to sell products. Start selling problems. The simple fact is, in my personal business, that I'm dealing with four incredible market niches, one of which is obesity. And the problem is that diets don't work. And so I sell the problem. I don't talk about the ingredients. I could talk about the ingredients as a doctor all day long. Now, I'll do webinars in which I'll share how those ingredients help solve the problem. But what I'm really selling is the problem. I'm selling the problem that you might be fat. And that might make you feel bad about yourself. But then I tell them that if that's what you believe, it's a mistake, because you are not fat. I don't care how big the scale says you are. I don't care whether you have a size 655 pant. You're not fat. You have fat, and you can get rid of the fat. You are a person just like me, just like everybody else that's here. And the distinction is that the problem you have is that society sold you the idea that you're fat. So you've owned it, and it's now become a part of you. When somebody tells me as a gay man, you're a faggot, I have a choice to accept whether that's what I am and who I am, or whether that's just a label that somebody gave me that's based on either some of my actions, some of my skills, some of my whatever the case may be. So again, somebody's buying, somebody's selling. And when we go to the marketplace tomorrow, we're going to talk about selling the problem. And that's when you sell the problem, then you can offer the solution. But if that person hasn't bought the problem, if they haven't accepted that there's a need, then your solution's meaningless. It's not germane to the conversation. It now has no relevance to them. So that's my part for today. I actually went 4 minutes over what I usually try to keep my part to. But now let's open up the microphones and you guys share with me what you think about the idea of someone always buying, someone always selling. Let's just open up these microphones and anybody jump in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I said this on the blog, but it's worth repeating because it's one of my favorite things to tell people when they tell me, I'm not a salesperson, I can't sell anything. I'm like, dude, I can't sell ice to a camel in the desert, and I can't sell electric blankets to Eskimos. Okay, seriously. I'm not selling, though. What I'm doing is sharing. I had a friend of mine that I remembered from massage school who had IBS. I messaged her last night. I'm like, Yo, Mo, you still got IBS? She goes, the hell you doing messaging me after like 6 months of no contact and asking me how my bowels are doing? And I'm like, seriously, come on, man. She goes, actually, yeah. Like that. I'm like, I might have something that could help you out. Would you be interested in checking it out, seeing if it could be a thing? So she's looking at it and checking her finances and all that fun stuff. But we have that kind of relationship. And that's the thing that I've learned is, I've heard the term shares person instead of a salesperson kind of thing. But my thing is, I just, I want to help people, but I want them to be drawn to me too. So yeah, I'll post the goofy stuff, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? But I'll also go back and forth with people. about, dude, chocolate's the best. Ben and Jerry's, Breyers, Breyers French vanilla is the best, by the way, if you were ever wondering. Um, the little flicks of bean, man, come on now, that's the best thing ever. But yeah, just going back and forth, but also posting things about, yes, this is a recipe and it is a little rich. You're going to have to enjoy it in moderation. And if you have a little trouble with that too, I've got this product that might help you out with some of those issues too and help you feel a little full. Go ahead and message me. Let's talk. And if people say, hey, what is that? Let's take it into the private messages so that everybody doesn't have to know your business. And we go back and forth. I don't see that as selling. I see that as sharing and helping. And I think that's a huge difference rather than being on the phone with a certain credit card company going, and I've got this product that will help you in case you don't have the money to make your payment if you were in a disaster area. Oh God, how I hated that soul-sucking place. Um, but yeah, I mean, seriously, go out like John said, go out, make connections. That's what social media is about. It's social. Be social. This is not the you show. This is not you're the center of everyone else's universe. You have to go out there and you have to and you have to comment. I've always done the every time I post, like 5, comment 3. Every time I post, like 5, comment 3. And that gets such a great feedback bouncing back and forth. And I've made friends on Instagram and Facebook just doing that, just back and forth. So yeah, definitely do your engagement stuff, man, because that's going to be the best thing for you.
And guys, I want you to understand. We're getting that feedback from Jen. There we go. I want you to understand that what Jen said there when she says, stop trying to sell and start sharing. Understand this: sharing and bringing value is what selling is. So it's not that Jen is really doing anything different from selling, because she just sat there and for 5 minutes on this video, she was selling us on her concept. She was selling us on what she does, and she was selling that person on the phone who has IBS. But she was doing it in a way that brings value. So sales, we have an idea that sales is something we do to somebody rather than something we do for somebody. Sharing, we do for somebody. Selling, we think we do to somebody. But what Jen has just done is demonstrate to you how to sell, because let's be really clear, she is selling and she is a salesperson, and she could sell a blanket to an Eskimo. I know her, and the simple fact is, though, that she would do it by offering features and benefits, by solving problems, by sharing the benefits that a blanket would have to the Eskimo. She wouldn't go in there by doing the sales pitch that we get on from telemarketers on the phone. So somebody else jump in and give us some feedback.
I'd like to. My name is Luigi. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we can.
Okay, as you can see here, I'm a professional salesman. Can you see that?
Nice.
Okay, so I think I know what it is about sales. I started selling when I was about 2 years old. I think the first time with my mother. So we're all salesmen. We were born salesmen. The greatest salesman is Jesus Christ, who made everybody believe. The biggest story on the planet of history. So now that we've known that we're all salesmen, how do we get the most benefit from being a salesman? And by God, by being in sales for the last 25 years, I've learned so many things that get sales, and network marketing is the same exact thing as selling. It's so sad because some people, they just follow the scripts like she was just sharing, and it has absolutely nothing. It has everything absolutely to say, like you were sharing. In sales, when I see a client here, I don't sell the first time. Rarely. I may sell the follow-up second time, sometimes. The third time, a little bit more. When I follow up 7 times, that's when I make the most sales selling cars. It's the same thing when you're prospecting in network marketing. But sadly, most people stop after their first rejection. And that is the big barrier where we need to teach our teams what this is all about, that it's normal that you'll get a rejection, but it doesn't mean you close out on somebody right away. because I just signed somebody up yesterday that I've been talking to for SBC. That's what we're talking about right now. For the last 5 months, by God. And 5 months ago, he was not ready. But I kept following up, not in a pushy way, following up with content, with value, engaging, following his posts, not just liking, trying to say a comment on his post. Well, he signed up yesterday, and his exact words to me was, his name is Mark Korn. He's a good marketer. Like, he has his own shows and everything online. He said to me, he says, Luigi, the only reason I signed up was because of your follow-up. For me, that showed me how much you really are serious about this business, and I only want to work with serious people. So it all comes down to the follow-up. As for, I mean, by God, this whole industry of working online is, I think, the most beautiful business that we can have in our lives. That if you're ready to put in a bit of work, and that's where the big question mark comes in. Not everybody, like, everybody wants gold platter handed to them, but not everybody is really ready to put that extra to get it.
Absolutely. Great points, Luigi. And, I really appreciate the fact that, that those numbers are the numbers, guys. It's 5 to 7 follow-ups before you've established trust with anyone in anything. Network marketing, selling cars, think about the first date you went on. Unless you were already crushing on that person, they probably had to kind of warm you up 5 to 7 times. When you go through an interview process, it's no coincidence that companies today take you through multiple step interview processes, because there is a trust and an exploration process that takes 5 to 7 interviews. So you might interview with 3 people and get a call back with the initial person and interview one more time before they make you that offer. And in network marketing, so many times the best example that I've heard used was, and I'm not a football guy, so I'm going to try and repeat this the right way, but I have the picture in my head, is that most people quit when they're on the 1 yard line. And that's just so tragic that you could go that 1 extra yard and make that touchdown, I think. But if not, we'll pretend that those are the rules of football, because that's the way that's the picture in my head. So guys, it really is about making sure, like Luigi said, when he says follow-up, again, that's another sales term. We think follow-up, oh, that means sending autoresponder letters. That means pitching them 7 times. Nope. Luigi said that meant engaging him 7 times. That meant, when he calls somebody to sell them a car, he doesn't call every time and say, hey, you want to buy that car now? Are you ready to buy the car now? Are you ready to buy the car now? He finds out what that person's needs are, what's important to them, maybe recommends another vehicle that happens to come, another opportunity that's come in. Hey, I'm just checking back with you. I want to see how things are going. Have you gotten that ride you were looking for yet? He's building a relationship. And people just don't get it, that building a relationship, that there's no shortcut to building a relationship. You either build a relationship, you invest the time, and if you invest the time, the payoff is always there. The payoff doesn't always mean you get the sale. The payoff doesn't always mean you enroll that person. But I'll promise you what, when that person runs across somebody who is a good fit for you, they always recommend them to you. If you've put the time in, you've invested the time and the value into them. And I just had that happen to me 2 days ago in this business. So, Ita and Katrina, I know one of you started to talk, whichever one of you wants to jump in and offer some. All right, go ahead, Katrina. Hello.
Hi. So, you asked initially, what do we think about this idea that somebody's always selling and somebody's always buying? And it occurs to me that just by waking up in the morning, that process is happening. Reality is selling me on how I perceive my day. And there's so many different avenues of input that come in. Media, internet, communications with people. We're constantly being sold things that influence our perspective. And so then it's a matter of really being in the truth of what we are and what we want to bring to the day ourselves. And I agree with everything, that's been said about the selling, the educating, the sharing process. But it occurs to me, that we can't even be awake and breathe without participating in that ebb and flow
Right on.
in some manner, So, and I think of the bringing the value is that I have things of value to share with people. What they do with what I share is out of my control. That's in their court. But I have what I bring with me, and some of that relates to my business. Some of that relates to just other ways I can help. Right now I'm visiting with friends. They have a garden here. One of the ways I can participate and bring value and create that connection, deepen and enrich the connection, is by pitching in and helping in the garden. And so in that connecting, then there will be openings to talk about health and wellness, or
Sure.
or other things that can possibly open the door to me sharing what I know of value that might benefit.
Right on. You're adding to you're deepening that relationship, and again, that's the focus there. Ita, let's hear from you, and I know you must have some insights on what we're sharing today.
Hi. Yes, I'm enjoying listening and frantically writing down, the tips and the hints that everyone is giving us here today. Because I recently came across some I don't know where I read it, but they were talking very similar to what you said today, which is that we're not selling a product, not to be selling the product. And what I read at the time was that you're to sell a feeling. And I was like, what do you mean? I was sitting there looking at this going, what do you mean sell a feeling? And it's all of what has been brought out today is basically what I take from it is that you're building that relationship with your customer, your prospective customer, and it's that feeling that they're going to get when you're building that relationship with them. They're looking forward to interacting with you when getting onto their post and seeing who's interested on their post. And when you're constantly there having the chat with them, and then it goes to PM and you're asking about different things, it's the feeling that they have of the relationship that they're building with you. And that's what eventually this is what I think, that's what eventually will lead to having a prospective business partner or a prospective customer. And yeah, that's what I sort of everyone has been talking today, was that when the prospective customer or business partner has that feeling there, because that's the base human interaction that everybody has and everybody needs and everybody wants. There's different types of feelings that we all fulfill in each other when we meet, when we become friends, when we're even Facebook friends. So that's where I am at the moment, listening to everything today.
Awesome. And yeah, that's really what it is all about. That's why we focus on cultivating relationships. And when we focus on cultivating relationships, those organic feelings that arise will lead where they lead. And that's the reason we say be married to the process, divorced from the outcome, because if you talk to enough people, the sales happen. But if you stay married to the process, then you never know where that relationship is going to take you. It may introduce you to the next person that becomes your next customer. It may introduce you to the next person who has $1 million idea that has nothing to do with what you're doing right now, that's in a completely different industry, that just opens the door for you. I had an opportunity not long ago that in cultivating a relationship with somebody over 5 years, where they said, hey, I just want to share with you a little bit of something that I've discovered. and it turned out to be one of the most life-saving bits of information for me that made all the difference between whether I survived those two massive heart attacks and the minor heart attack or not. And it was just because somebody happened to be reading a medical journal that was not one of the medical journals I read. And they said, I just read this research that there's a specific combination of these two ingredients. As a result of that, I formulated a cardio product that I'm going to pitch to my company when I hit a certain level called Crown Diamond with the company. But I wouldn't have, that person is not in my business now. We don't do business together. That just happens to be a physician whose relationship I've been cultivating and who said, I just read this research, and do you know that if you have certain levels of these two ingredients, that there's a 75% reduction in the chance of heart attacks. And so then I did my research. I found out there were some other ingredients that would be beneficial to that and started formulating a product. So guys, it's all about focusing on cultivating relationships. That's why the title of today's session was influencing, because when you're in a relationship, that influencing goes both ways, and you recognize that, and there's value there. If you're in a relationship where the other person, and we've all seen this is what I'm going to lead you with. There are people who are in my organization right now, who are under people that are in my downline, because I don't ever personally bring people into the business who are like this. But they are people who are that person's upline in another company. So their upline got involved in this in our primary program to see what's going on. They got involved in this, in my opinion, to see what kind of holes they can poke in the product and in the comp plan and everything else. And when they find out that they can't, they get their panties in a knot. And what do? They just don't enroll anybody. They don't order product anymore. They waste your time and they waste your effort because you weren't engaged in a real relationship. And here's a news flash. In the other business that you're doing business with them in, you don't have a real relationship either, because they don't give a shit about you. They give a shit about making the sale. And that's all they care about. And they only came here to try and take away what was working for you and regain the sale. So stay away from those one-sided relationships. Stay away from those deals that are not are not conducive to better health and financial fitness. And that's what this is all about. So guys, remember, influencing is part of the relationship building process. The relationship building process should always be healthy. And then, as we tell you at the end of every one of our programs, stay in the moment. That's where the point of power is. Recognize that happiness is the object and design of our existence, and that in that pursuit of that happiness, when we stay in the moment, we can be grateful for what we've got, knowing that opens the door for the abundance that's waiting for us, and that the best is yet to come. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for being here, everybody.